"I built this life," I muttered, tracing the grain of the oak table in my kitchen. 9 years. 9 years married to Denise, building a comfortable, predictable, loving life. Or so I thought. Now, staring at the empty coffee cup in front of me, the word love tasted like ash, like betrayal, like the bitter aftertaste of a promise broken. It was a throwaway comment, really, just a casual mention in our New Year's Eve conversation, nestled between resolutions and reflections on the past year. We were sitting by the fireplace, the remnants of Christmas decorations still casting a warm, nostalgic glow. I'd just proposed a toast to another year of happiness, another year of building our future together. That's when Denise dropped the bomb. "Oh, and speaking of Stace," Denise said, swirling the last of her champagne, a glint in her eye that I now recognize as something akin to malice. "You know that time she stopped by while you were at work? I just grabbed her arm and threw her out. I don't appreciate kids snooping around my house." My world tilted. The cheerful decorations, the crackling fireplace, the promises of a new year, all faded into a blurry background, replaced by a chilling image of my sweet, sensitive sister being physically ejected from my home. The air in my lungs seemed to vanish. You what?" I stammered, my voice barely audible, a strangled whisper lost in the crackle of the fire. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. She shrugged, seemingly unfazed, the picture of nonchalant indifference. "What's the big deal? It's my house too, and I don't like kids being here when I don't know about it. The house is mine, let's be clear. Every brick, every beam, every carefully chosen piece of furniture. The mortgage is in my name, the down payment came from the sale of my grandfather's cherished, lovingly restored farm equipment, a legacy I poured my heart and soul into earning. The prenup, a document I insisted on to protect my family's legacy, clearly states that our assets are separate. All things Denise knew, all things she explicitly agreed to when she walked down that aisle and vowed to spend her life with me. But the words stuck in my throat. I couldn't articulate the depth of my outrage. It wasn't just about ownership. It was about respect, about boundaries, about the unspoken agreement we'd had since the beginning of our relationship. It was about the safety and well-being of my siblings, the people I loved most in the world. I stood up abruptly, needing to escape, to process what I'd just heard before I said something I'd regret, or perhaps more accurately, before I did something I'd regret. I walked out onto the back porch, the cold winter air a welcome slap in the face. I closed my eyes, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. I'm Elijah, by the way. I'm 31 years old, an agricultural professor at the local university and a part-time farmer. It's in my blood, this connection to the land. My family has been farming this land for generations, coaxing life from the soil, weathering droughts and storms, and building a legacy of hard work and perseverance. I teach my students about sustainable farming practices, about the importance of respecting the environment, about the connection between the land and the soul. It gives my life purpose. I live a quiet, simple life, rooted in the land and grounded by routine. My days are filled with the rhythm of the seasons, planting, harvesting, teaching, mentoring. But the most important thing in my life, the thing that truly defines me, is my family, specifically my younger siblings, Stace, Ava, and Dylan. They're the reason I get up in the morning. They're the reason I strive to be a better man. They're the reason I work so hard so they have security. They're the reason I believe in the inherent goodness of the world, even when I see so much ugliness in it. They're the closest thing I have to kids of my own. And I cherish them fiercely. I left home when I was 16. My parents weren't bad people, not really, but they were distant, disengaged. They never understood my passion for farming, my unwavering connection to the land. They saw it as a dead end, a backwater career. They wanted me to be a lawyer, a doctor, a businessman, anything but a dirt-covered peasant, as my father so charmingly put it. There was so much pressure to leave the farm behind, to find a real job. So I made a difficult decision. I left. I moved in with my Uncle Earl, a gruff but kind-hearted farmer who became my mentor and my surrogate father. He saw something in me that my parents didn't, a genuine love for the land and a determination to make a difference. My siblings were born after I left home. It was difficult being away from them, missing out on their milestones, their first steps, their first words. But I made a promise to myself that I would be there for them, that I would be the big brother they deserved. I visited them every weekend, faithfully driving the 2 hours back to my hometown, no matter the weather, no matter how tired I was. I brought them gifts, read them stories, helped them with their homework, and taught them everything I knew about farming and the natural world. I instilled in them my passion for farming, in the hopes that it may spark a connection with our heritage, and ultimately, me. I love them fiercely, protectively. They are sensitive, sweet kids, with hearts as big as the open sky. Stace, at 15, is the oldest, a budding artist with a sharp wit and a keen sense of justice. She sees the world in vibrant colors and isn't afraid to challenge the status quo. Ava, 12, is a bookworm with a vivid imagination and a quiet empathy that draws people to her. She gets lost in the magic of stories and has an uncanny ability to understand others' emotions. And Dylan, 10, is a whirlwind of energy, a curious and adventurous spirit who loves nothing more than exploring the woods behind my house, always in search of a new adventure. When I met Denise during my final year of university, I was upfront about everything: my passion for farming, my family history, and most importantly, my deep and abiding love for my siblings. I made it clear that they were a non-negotiable part of my life. She wasn't particularly interested in them, which I initially dismissed as just a difference in personality. I figured she didn't have to be as invested as I was. All I asked was that she be civil, that she treat them with basic decency, that she respect their place in my life. She seemed fine with that. She smiled politely when they visited, offered them snacks, though I always noticed they were the generic store-brand kind, not the good stuff I stocked for myself, and occasionally asked them about school. I thought we were on the same page, that we had a mutual understanding. That's why her revelation on New Year's Eve was such a shock. It shattered my perception of her, revealing a coldness, a calculated cruelty that I never knew existed beneath the surface of her carefully constructed persona. It was like discovering a hidden room in my own house, a room filled with darkness and secrets. I went back inside, my hands clenched into fists, my heart pounding in my chest. Denise was still sitting at the table, sipping her champagne, her expression serene, as if she hadn't just confessed to committing a potentially criminal act. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous, the rumble of an approaching storm. She looked up at me, her expression defiant, her eyes glinting with a challenge. "I said I threw Stace out. She was snooping around and I don't like it." Snoping around? She wasn't robbing a bank. She was picking up a book she left here after Christmas. It was a first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird that I had gifted her. It meant a lot to her, and you threw her out for that? "She wasn't doing anything wrong," I said, my voice tight with suppressed anger. I forced myself to speak calmly, despite the wave of rage threatening to consume me. "And even if she was, you can't just grab a minor and throw her out. That's assault, Denise. Do you have any idea what you did?" "Oh, please, Elijah, don't be so dramatic," she scoffed, dismissively waving her hand. "I didn't hurt her. I just gave her a little nudge. Besides, I didn't marry your siblings. I didn't sign up to be a mother. I don't have the patience to deal with children." "No, you didn't," I said, my voice rising, my control slipping. "But you did sign up to be my wife. And you knew from the beginning that my siblings were a part of my life. I even told you, before I ever put a ring on your finger, that I would take legal guardianship of them if anything happened to our parents. You swore you were supportive. You accepted my ring knowing all of that, Denise. You looked me in the eyes and said you understood." She rolled her eyes, a gesture that sent my blood pressure soaring. "I accepted you, Elijah, not your baggage. You were selling me a husband position, not a mother position." "My baggage?" I repeated, incredulous, the words laced with disbelief and pain. "They're not baggage, Denise. They're my family. They're the most important people in my world, and you treat them like they're a burden. How could you be so cruel?" "Well, they're not my family," she retorted, her voice dripping with venom. "And I'm tired of pretending they are. I'm tired of you always putting them first. I'm your wife, Elijah. Shouldn't I be your priority?" That's when it clicked. That's when I realized that Denise had been lying to me all along, that the woman I thought I knew, The woman I'd built a life with was nothing more than a carefully constructed facade. She hadn't accepted my siblings. She'd merely tolerated them, resentfully biding her time, waiting for an opportunity to push them out of our lives, to claim me solely for herself. The next few days were a living hell, filled with tense silences, strained conversations, and a growing sense of unease. I slept in the guest room, unable to bear the thought of sharing a bed with her, the space between us a gaping chasm of mistrust and disappointment. I couldn't shake the image of her grabbing Stace, of her casually dismissing her actions as if they were nothing more than swatting away a pesky fly. What hurt the most, what truly broke my heart, was the thought of Stace, of how this incident had affected her. She's always been a sensitive kid, easily wounded by criticism or rejection. To know that Denise, someone she looked up to, someone she considered to be a part of our family, harbored such disdain for her, it was unbearable. I finally confronted Stace a few days later. I couldn't bear the thought of her suffering in silence, of her believing that she had done something wrong. I drove to my parents' house and asked her to come outside for a walk. "I heard what happened, Stace," I said, my voice gentle, my hand resting on her shoulder. "I'm so sorry. Denise had no right to treat you like that. It was completely unacceptable." She looked down at the ground, kicking at a loose pebble, her shoulders slumped. "It's okay, Elijah," she mumbled, her voice barely audible. "I know she doesn't like me. She never has." "That's not true," I said, pulling her into a hug, my heart aching for her pain. She has a hard time with kids. It has nothing to do with you. You are a wonderful person, Stace, and I am proud to be your brother. Never forget that." But even as I spoke the words, I knew they were a lie, a feeble attempt to protect her from the harsh reality of Denise's cruelty. Denise didn't just have a hard time with kids, she actively disliked them, especially my siblings. "It's okay," Stace repeated, pulling away from the hug, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I just won't come over anymore. It's easier that way. I don't want to cause any problems between you and Denise." And that's when I knew. That's when I realized that I couldn't allow this to continue, that I couldn't sacrifice my siblings' happiness, their sense of security, their place in my life, for the sake of a marriage that was built on a foundation of lies and resentment. I had to make a choice. Me and Denise, or my siblings. It wasn't a fair choice, but it was a necessary one. I haven't brought up divorce yet. The thought of ending a 9-year marriage is terrifying, a prospect that fills me with anxiety and dread. It means dismantling a life we built together, dividing our possessions, and facing the judgment of our families and friends. It means admitting that I failed, that I made a mistake, that I chose the wrong person to spend my life with. But I can't shake the feeling that Denise betrayed me, that she violated the fundamental trust that our relationship was built on. I can't reconcile the woman I thought I knew, the woman I vowed to love and cherish for the rest of my life, with the woman who would throw a teenage girl out of her house, who would dismiss the pain and suffering of my family with such callous indifference. I've tried to talk to her, to explain how deeply she's hurt me, how much damage she's done to our relationship, how she violated the boundaries. But she refuses to see my point of view. She insists that I'm overreacting, that I'm putting my siblings before her, that I'm being unreasonable, that I'm not prioritizing our marriage. Maybe she's right. Maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I should try to forgive her, to move past this, to rebuild our marriage, to find a way to coexist with her resentment towards my family. But can I? Can I truly forgive someone who has hurt my family, who has disrespected the most important people in my life? Can I ever look at Denise the same way again, knowing what she's capable of, knowing the darkness that lurks beneath her polished surface? Can I continue to live in a house where my siblings are not welcome, where they are treated with disdain and contempt, where they are made to feel like they don't belong? That's why I'm here, wrestling with this decision, pacing the floor of my empty house at 3 a.m., the weight of the world heavy on my shoulders. I love Denise. I truly do. Or at least, I thought I did. But I also love my siblings, and I refuse to choose between them. I refuse to sacrifice their happiness for the sake of a marriage that may already be broken beyond repair. So, Reddit, I need your honest opinion. Was Denise's behavior a complete deal breaker? Am I blinded by love for my siblings to see reason? If you were in my position, what would be your next step? If you have had similar experiences with relationships, what would be your advice? I'm at a complete loss. What should I do?